Greetings and welcome to New Media News. My name is Chuck Palm. Today is Monday, September 14th, 2009. New Media News is the only news netcast that is all about, by, for, and with social media on the web today. New Media News is sponsored by IPN, the Internet Podcasting Network. This week, check out the episode on podcasting for your business, where I interview Brian Brushwood. Brian is the host of Scam School on Revision 3. Not to be missed. And now for our top stories. To start things off, we learned that last week, 2 girls were rescued from a stormwater drain in Australia while they were updating their Facebook pages. Instead of using their cell phones to dial 000, the Australian version of 911. Really? At first blush, you look at this story and you think to yourself, okay, these are 2 girls who are goofing around, and instead of calling their parents or 911, in this case 000 for Australia, they get down into a storm drain and decide to update their Facebook status. Sounds perfectly reasonable, right? The 10 and 12-year-old girls updated a Facebook status to say they were lost in a drain on Honeypot Road at Hackham in Adelaide's southern suburbs on Sunday night. Glenn Benham from the MFS says that it was fortunate a young friend was online at the time and was able to call help for them. Didn't they use a cell phone to update their status? Maybe they dropped in with a laptop computer, I'm not sure. It's not the first time that social media has been used in place of an emergency call. In Atlanta, in 2009 of May, a councilman was concerned that his cell phone battery would be flat by the time that a 911 call connected. So instead, he tweeted out, "I need a paramedic on the corner of John Wesley Dobbs and Jackson Street. And there's a woman on the ground unconscious. Please retweet." At least he said please. These girls will go down as my recipient this year for the Darwin Awards. Those of you who don't understand what the Darwin Awards reference is, please Google it and get back to me. In another story from our friends over at Podcasting News, we learned that Usher has authorized a top 100 playlist to be found on iTunes at the Wizzard media site. Wizzard is a podcast production company. From the New Media Update page on Podcasting News, we learned that pop star Usher has released the Ushers Top 100 podcast recommending his favorite songs as a streaming playlist over iTunes. This has to be my vote for the most useless iTunes app yet, as if I care what Usher is listening to on his iPhone right now. Although I give Usher props for being a podcaster, he just happened to choose Wizzard, which in my opinion is the wrong network. The application will sell for $2.99, and the deal calls for a revenue share between the parties of those that Usher recommends on his playlist. Dave Dederer, VP of Business Development at Melodio, said this: "This is the first app that combines a major recording artist, podcast marketing to iTunes consumers, and a new model for selling music. Hopefully this will show the music industry that there are options beyond the old products of units of songs, albums, and ringtones. And copyright protection that makes it virtually impossible to download anything to anything other than an iPhone." That last part was an editorial by yours truly and does not reflect the people at New Media News, IPN, or any other reasonably respectable news network. In our next segment, ZDNet tells us of blogger Rosemary Port, who runs the blog Skanks of NYC, who apparently is suing Google for $15 million because Google lost a court case and now must reveal her identity to those that she called skanks. And for my favorite news article of the week that mentions skank in the title, Skank blogger sues Google for $15 million. Apparently this lady, Rosemary Port, a 27-year-old student at the Fashion Institute of Technology, runs the Skanks of New York City blog, and she is one pissed-off young lady, and that is a quote. She not only has strong words for model Liskula Cohen, whose legal action outed her as a blogger, she's ready to sue Google for $15 million for complying with a court order to turn over her information. Google being sued $15 million for doing what the law said. Okay. Rosemary had this to say on her blog. This has become a public spectacle and a circus that is not my doing. By going to the press, she's defamed herself. Before her suit, there was probably 2 hits on my website. One from me looking at it, and one from her looking at it. And that was before it became a spectacle. I feel my right to privacy has been violated. And your right to profit, apparently, too, if there's only 2 people reading your blog. And my favorite quote from the article, Google is being sued for breaching its fiduciary duty to protect her expectation of anonymity, according to her lawyer, Salvatore Straziolo. Says her lawyer, what this blogger did not ought to be condemned or forgiven, but my client is walking away from it, the lawyer said. She said, it adds nothing to my life to hurt hers. Laskuka has offered her forgiveness, but even after she has been forgiven, Port has no interest in redeeming her soul. The soulless Rosemary Port. In techie news, from Techcrunch, we learn about a new RSSCloud feature brought to you on WordPress.com and available as a plugin for your blogs. The TechCrunch.com post for WordPress that enables a RSS cloud in a post feed sounds like it could be some pretty boring stuff. But I was impressed to read through the story and discover that they have a clever use of the Simpsons cartoon at the very outset here that talks about how this process will change the way that people read blogs and receive podcasts. Which, by the way, you're listening to at the moment. This protocol was designed by Dave Weiner, who happens to be one of the guys that is credited with creating a lot of the code for podcasting, and has pioneered the use of feeds in a way to aggregate the content. RSS Cloud feeds are more responsive and real-time, and rather than an annoying model of, are we there yet? Are we there yet? It pushes updates and update notifications down to a subscriber from a cloud server API. One of my favorite new terms that comes from this article, reminiscent of the old RSS and Atom battles, another group of developers, led by Brad Fitzpatrick, published a format cloud hub known as PubSubHubBub, which is now being supported by Google Reader. So get your Google Reader on and go over to the TechCrunch website, and just for giggles, they put in the Simpsons Ride from Universal Studios promo.
Are we there yet? No. Are we there yet? No. Are we there yet? No. Are we there yet?
And finally, learned why I picked the Count over Charlie Sheen in his video message to President Obama. In what has to be the most interesting use of social media to date, actor Charlie Sheen has produced a video message to President Obama asking him to form a congressional hearing investigating the truth behind the 9/11 attacks. Okay, let me ask you this. When did we really decide that we were going to care about what a drug-addled Hollywood actor thought about 9/11? As a matter of fact, in the past week over 9/11, we have seen lots of comments and lots of people come out on the Truth 911 side. And I've got to ask you this question. How is it that our government could be so inept and yet still so pull off such an elaborate scheme to cover up 9/11? If 911 was a coordinated cover-up, it would have been the best kept secret of all time of any government, and I just don't see that happening. When we have government officials in sex scandals every week being outed in the news, and the government itself can't keep secrets about its own programs that it's trying to push through the Congress right now. It is virtually impossible to conceive, especially when you look at the reports from places like the Popular Mechanics article that debunks absolutely everything that came out in the Loose Change video and various other places. So, Charlie Sheen, sorry, you don't get a link to the New Media News site this week. Instead, I give you my favorite video, which actually happens to have 7 times the viewers of Charlie Sheen's message, The Count Censored. That's right, somebody out there is a big Count fan from Sesame Street and has produced a video bleeping out questionable words inside the Count song.
But sometimes I get carried away. I slowly getting faster. Once I start it's very hard to stop. Hey.
Sorry, it made me laugh. That's it for this week in New Media News. Remember, you can reach us at newmediapodcast.com, where we're still taking submissions and your comments. Thanks for all the feedback to date. You can reach us at the following addresses. And on Facebook, the new fan page. My name is Chuck Palm. Have a great week, everybody.